A little while, and what we're going to do this morning is just talk a little bit about sort of healthy, productive ways to communicate. What I find doing my work, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute, is that the most important thing about being a good communicator is practicing how to be a good listener. And listening is a skill because it's not just making sure you're not talking while someone else is talking. It's also trying to figure out how to hear what someone is saying and to hear whatever it is that's below the words that someone is saying. So sometimes when someone is talking to you, you know that the words coming out of their mouth are not actually what they mean. I do it all the time. We all do it all the time. And so a really important key skill to being a good listener and a good communicator is being able to, like I said, sort of get underneath the things coming out of people's mouths and really try to get at the heart of what people need when they're communicating. So this morning, we're going to practice a little bit of sort of active listening and communicating, and then we're going to talk a little bit about a specific framework called nonviolent communication. So we'll talk a little bit about where it came from, the purpose of it, and then we'll do a little practice, and that should take us right about to lunch. So you may have noticed that you are sitting in a circle right now, and the first thing I want to say about sitting in a circle is that it feels a little bit risky to sit in a circle sometimes, right? So there's nothing between any of us right now. There's no leader in this circle. There's no hierarchy in a circle. Everybody is on a level playing field, an even playing field. And that's the way we want to approach this kind of communication, right? Imagining that we are all all of our experiences are equally valid, and that we all have an opportunity to share those experiences and know that other people are listening to them. So the other thing about a circle is that it does make me, at least speaking personally, feel a little vulnerable. Because like I said, there's nothing for me to hide behind here, right? I'm kind of all out there in the middle of the circle, and so is everybody else. And it's important for us to think about being vulnerable and think about our own vulnerabilities and the vulnerabilities of people with whom we work and people with whom we speak, right? So oftentimes when we're feeling vulnerable in the world, it's because there's some need underneath that vulnerability, right? So I feel scared. It's because I have a need for safety, and that need is not being met. And so now I'm feeling scared, and that's a vulnerable way to feel. So the thing about needs when we're communicating is that everything we do in the world as communication is in an attempt to get our needs met, right? So a need, like I said, for safety, a need for belonging, a need to be seen and validated, a need to be accepted. There are lots of needs in the world that we call universal needs because everybody shares those needs, and we're going to talk a little bit sort of about a list of those a little later. But the thing about those needs is that oftentimes when they're not being met, it causes pain in our lives. And that pain is what drives vulnerability and is what oftentimes drives people to communicate with each other in what we would call a violent way. And when I say violent communication, I don't mean you putting our hands on each other, although that happens sometimes too. What I mean is communicating in a way that is not respectful, that is not listening to another person's needs and experience. And so that's why, like I said, what we want to practice today is this thing called nonviolent communication. So my daily life, in my daily job, I'm the executive director of a group called the Tennessee Higher Education Initiative. THEI is how we abbreviate it. And we are a nonprofit organization that's based here in Nashville. And we work with the Tennessee Department of Correction, and we work with local colleges to bring college programming into prisons across the state of Tennessee. So we have a big site about an hour west of here where we have about 100 students, and then we have another site out in West Tennessee where we have about 40 students, and those students are working towards associate's degrees at their local community colleges, essentially. So we kind of operate like satellite campuses of the colleges inside these prison facilities. Before I did that work, though, I worked as a chaplain at the Tennessee Prison for Women. And when I worked as a chaplain at the women's prison is when I got trained to do both circle processes and also to do nonviolent communication. So I would meet with a group of women at the prison twice a week, and we would sit in circle every time we met, and we would just pardon me for cursing, work our shit out together. And, you know, the thing about a circle is that everybody gets a chance to talk, and when you are talking, you are the only person talking. So that's sort of the benefit of a circle process, is that you really have a chance to air what it is you want to say, and other folks are listening, knowing that they will also have their turn to air what they want to say. So the way that a circle kind of works is that there's, like I said, there's one person talking at once, and when you're talking, you're holding what's called the talking piece. So here's the talking piece. I brought this particular talking piece because my friend Penny gave me this when he was 4. He's now 9. But he came over one day and we were hanging out while his parents were off doing I don't remember what. And he gave me this when he left because he valued our time together, and I really valued that time together too. You'll see if you look closely that there's still some sort of Play-Doh smashed into the wrinkles on the dinosaur, because this has been a well-loved treasure, and also now works as a well-loved talking piece. So the other thing I want to just mention is what you see in the middle of the circle here. So typically in a circle process, because sometimes some like deep shit gets worked out in these circles, and the thing about listening for a long period of time is that you really have to train yourself to do it. And sometimes you lose focus, you get distracted. If you're like me, you're sort of thinking about, oh God, what am I going to say when the talking piece gets to me? And that takes you out of the conversation. And so the purpose of having some things in the middle are just for you to sort of put your attention on these things if you find your mind wandering. So in a moment where you're getting a little distracted, just hang out here in the middle, think about what's in the middle, check them out, look at them, and then when you're ready, you sort of bring your attention back to the conversation. So I like to put things in the middle that are special to me and my work. And that's a strategy that some people use when they do circle processes. So I'll tell you what's in the middle here. So the first thing is the placemat underneath the items is something that my sister made. So I have younger sisters who are disabled, and they live at sort of a living, working community in Virginia for folks with disabilities. And my sister Emma works in the weavery. They have a weaving shop there where they weave these beautiful napkins and placemats and things. So my sister made that placemat. So that makes me think of my family. And sort of the ways that my family have strengthened me to be able to do the work that I do. The broken piece of glass is from my ordination ceremony. So I'm a ordained minister. I graduated from Vanderbilt Divinity School, which is right across the street. And when I got ordained, I had my ordination ceremony in this beautiful orchard, and it was a beautiful day. It was really sunny. It was in the fall, but there was no bad weather. And in the middle of the ceremony, that oil lamp just smashed into, exploded into a million pieces. And it was a really powerful moment of feeling like there was energy in that group. And so I bring that broken glass because it makes me remember how much energy there is when people come together to do the work of justice. The quartz that's in the mason jar, a friend of mine gave me when I graduated from the divinity school. And when she gave it to me, she said, leave this in the window because it charges up in the sun. And I like to bring that because it helps me remember that our work is to bring light into some very dark places, like prisons for me, for my work, and the way that we can all kind of get charged up by the sun and by the sunlight. In the middle are tarot cards, and actually they sort of go along with the bottle of liquid, which is called Florida water. So Florida water, I bought that in New Orleans. And they say that it's the perfume that Marie Laveau used to wear, and she's sort of the queen of voodoo in New Orleans. And what I find so meaningful about her and about my travels to New Orleans is just how much really powerful female magical energy there is in that city. So that's why I brought both the tarot cards and the Florida water. And then the last thing is just my Beyonce icon candle, which someone gave me as a gift for my birthday a few years ago. If you want to check it out later, you can see it's Beyonce. Sort of, she's in her Formation costume hat from the Formation video, but also she's sort of dressed up like a Catholic saint. Yes, that's right, Sacred Heart, Mary of the Sacred Heart. And so anyway, that one sort of speaks for itself, I think. Okay, so what I'm going to do, like I said, so I'm going to pass the talking piece around, and we'll just practice one round first. So when you have the talking piece is when it's your opportunity to speak, and then when you're ready, you can pass it to the next person. If you don't want to speak, you can always just pass. there's never a situation in a circle where someone is forced to share anything, and the circle just takes as long as it takes, okay? So the purpose of the circle is just for us to sort of build some new knowledge about each other, such that we walk away from the circle knowing more than we did when we started the circle. So the question for the first round is this. If you could describe yourself as a weather pattern, what weather pattern would you be? And I will say for myself, so I grew up in New England. I'm from Providence, Rhode Island originally, and I love the autumn in New England because it's very sunny and bright, but it's also very cold and crisp. And that's sort of